Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I've got part 2 of my Christmas set for you, and I'm going to show you how I did the Santa and the candy cane thumbnail. So I'm going to show you all the different polishes that I used to create this look, all the different items. And while I'm doing that, I do just want to remind you to please hit subscribe and the notification bell so that you never miss out on a video. So to start, I'm going to do the candy cane thumbnail. I will put a timestamp on the screen if you want to skip ahead to where I did the Santa. So I just mixed together a couple of greens, and I have a red this red's like a perfect Christmas red. So it was perfect for my candy cane, but I did want the green to be darker. So I just mixed a couple greens together. One green was too olive, one green was too almost like hunter green. So mixing them together made the perfect one. And then I'm just using a nice little liner brush by McCart. Well, it's actually not a liner, it's more of a detail brush because it's not long. And so I'm just using that to create my little candy cane lines. This is really simple to do. They don't have to be perfect since candy canes are like a food. The lines are more organic, so they don't have to be perfect, but I do try to keep them as straight as possible. And anytime I get like a little wiggle in my line, like right here, I just use my little cleanup brush with some alcohol and tighten that line right up. And then after I finish a line, I do go ahead and flash cure for 5 seconds just to make sure that I don't mess up the work I've already done. Now, anytime I show you guys a hand painting tutorial, I do make sure to tell you guys to breathe. Try to skip any kind of coffee before doing detail work. But if you are shaky like me, you want to definitely have an anchor. So if you see, I always use my pinky or my ring finger to anchor myself. And then I start with just a dot on the nail, and then I use that dot to pull the line through. Also, when I'm pulling the line, I take a deep breath and I go, and I breathe out as I pull my line. That helps keep it a lot more straight, a lot less shaky, and you'll just have an easier time altogether. And I always give that tip when doing hand painting tutorials because it's super, super helpful, and not everyone sees all of my videos. So I just want you guys to know that that's a really helpful tip, so definitely use it. Take advantage of the tips I'm giving because they're tried and true. I promise they work. So after creating kind of thicker stripes with my red, I'm just going to go in with the green and create a nice thin stripe just above each of the red lines. So this would be a kind of mixed candy cane. The one thing about my red is that I wish I would have used a red that's more like jelly and mixed it with this bright red, because this bright red is definitely opaque, and candy canes, they have a translucency to their stripes. They have kind of that clear base, so that's the only thing I would have changed. But other than that, I really like the way that this turned out. And it's a really quick look to do, and it turns out super pretty. Your clients will love it, you'll love it. It's perfect for any kind of holiday or Christmas set. And you can always change up the way you do the candy canes. So you can do all red, all green, red and green. You can add some silver, whatever you want to do, just have fun with it. And then if you're having a hard time cleaning up the lines with a cleanup brush, go ahead and cure it. And then once you're done setting all those lines, you can always go back in with some white. The white, I use like a thicker gel paint, and it's really, really helpful to clean those up. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to my Santa. And to do this, I'm first base coated my nail, and then I just took my PolyGel and I'm mixing it with clear acrylic. So for this part, I'm mixing in white with clear acrylic. I did use this for my 3D candy cane, which was in part 1 of this. If you guys missed part 1, I will have it linked up in the iCards. Make sure you check that out because it was a really good one too. I hand painted the elf and showed you the 3D candy cane. So that was kind of what I used this for. And here I'm just putting some alcohol on my fingers to help keep it from sticking. But it still was sticking, which told me it needed more of that clear acrylic. You want the texture to be a little bit grainy. It's almost like wet sand, but a little less grainy than that. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of like a fluffy, grainy type of consistency. It's hard to describe. I hope you can see it. I hope I was able to zoom up enough here for you to really see what I was talking about. But I just keep adding more until I get the consistency I like, and I feel it on my fingers. And then if it's still too sticky, then I just add more acrylic. So after I got that white mixed up, I mixed the white first, like I said, because I wanted the candy cane, and you can see that on my nail over there. So now I'm just using some of this ModelOnes apricot PolyGel to create my Santa face. So I'm starting with just making basically a circle shape, and then I'm going to use my PolyGel brush to kind of dent in the general area of where I want the eyes and the nose, and then I create kind of like a hole where I want his mouth to be, because his mouth's going to be open. So I create a kind of hole, and I bring down the bottom of the shape to create a kind of chin area, which will actually end up being like his bottom lip, because you won't see the chin, that's covered by the beard. So here it is up close. I hope you can see there's kind of just like little dents where I would have had the eyes and nose, and then the opening for the mouth. So now I'm going to do the 3D work for Santa's face. So I'm taking that same clear, or the apricot PolyGel by ModelOnes, and I'm adding in the clear acrylic. Now with these more translucent or core colors, they require a lot less of the acrylic. So put in a scoop, mix it in. If you need more, add more. But that way you're not wasting and over making, because if I would have added more acrylic off the bat, I would have needed to add more PolyGel, and I just didn't need that much. So just add a little bit of a time and just keep mixing. So once I got that added in, I just created little balls. As you can see, this is really easy to work with, and that's why I like doing my 3D work in this way, because you can use your fingers. It's really easy to mold even with a brush or any other tool. Very easy. So I'm creating the cheeks here, and I just rolled them out, and then I'm just using my brush with just the tiniest bit of alcohol. I'm not really pressing on the top, I'm more pressing on the sides so that I can seal them to his background face and keep that rounded top. And then after I applied his like base face, I did cure that for 30 seconds. It's a 60-second cure, but I just did 30. And then now that I added the cheeks, I'm going to do another 30, and then I'm going to add the nose. Once I add the nose, I will do a full 60-second cure just to make sure everything is thoroughly cured. And then with the little nose, after I rolled that up and put it on, I just used my little cuticle scraper tool to kind of put in little indents on the tip where it would be the nostrils. I forgot to shade those in the end, but oh well. You can't really see them in the end product, but they're there. So then I rolled out kind of like a snake shape with a small portion of the PolyGel, and I'm creating what will be his bottom lip. And I'm leaving an opening between the bottom lip and the nose and cheek area, because I'm going to create a little mustache there. So I'm just shaping that with my brush, kind of creating it in like a half circle, but it's more pointed towards the bottom. So just keep your brush very slightly damp with the alcohol, and I hope you can see there how it was kind of a raised surface. And then you could just use your brush to push that around as you need to. So now I did the same thing with the white. I just created a little snake shape by rolling it out on my little palette. And now I'm just pressing that on above the lip and below the cheeks to create his little mustache. And then with the mustache, you just want to kind of point the edges so that, or like the tips, so that it's kind of, you know, pointed. Like that's how mustaches are. They're thinner at the tips. So then I'm just creating more little snake shapes to create his beard. This first one was too thick. I should have made it thinner, but that was okay. And I'm pressing them down in a kind of swirled or like a wave pattern. I'm not making them all the same shape, but mostly just kind of like little waves. And I use the back side of my brush. I use like the little spatula to get things to move around the way I want them to. Just whatever I need to do to create those shapes. And then I just keep adding more and more. I do flash cure these in between, so 10 to 15 seconds every time I add a new strand and get it positioned the way I want it. 10 to 15 second flash cure. So I was just kind of covering that up for a second so that hopefully you could see with all the bright light there, that you could kind of see the detail of that. And then I noticed I had wiped off my inhibition layer from the base coat previously, and these strands were kind of like falling off and really difficult to place on the nail without it just like wanting to roll off. So I just applied a little bit more base coat to give myself a sticky surface, and it helped a lot. So I would definitely recommend keeping that inhibition layer there when doing this work, and wipe everything off in the end. Don't worry about wiping it until the end. So you just continue rolling out little snake shapes and then adding them in the little, you know, curves and twists and turns and curly bits, just in a way that Santa's beard would be. And the way I make the snakes is I take off just a little tiny section of the white PolyGel. I roll it into a ball, and then I put it on the palette and roll it out with my finger, and that creates the perfect snake type shape. And that way the ends are a little more tapered and pointed as well, which gives it a more natural look. There was a couple things I wish I had done differently with this. Like, I definitely should have made 3D eye sockets, but I did not. I just painted the eyes on flat. It kind of made the eyes look a little unrealistic, and so it gave him kind of like a creepy, evil look, which sucks because he's like a cute little Santa. But also, my husband was like, his cheeks look like boobs, and now that's all I see. That's all I see now when I look at the Santa, little boob cheeks, okay? And everyone I say that to is like, yep, that's what it looks like. Well, it wouldn't have looked like that had I made his eye sockets 3D, but I did this set for a collaboration, and I waited to the very last minute to do this set, which was just stupid on my part. So I was trying to hurry up and finish this nail. I had done the original like set the first day, and then the candy cane and the Santa I added the second day, and I just needed to get it done so I could get my video edited. So, oh well, we live and we learn. Next time I will make his eye sockets 3D. Okay, so I finished up with his beard, so now I'm just going to paint in his facial features. So I'm using this kind of tan color, which I mixed with some top coat, and I just dabbed it off to the side just to test the color and make sure it's what I wanted. And then I added some pink with some top coat as well, because I wanted these to be very sheer, translucent colors. So I used that kind of tan all over his face and cheeks, nose, and then also the bottom lip. And then once I get that painted all over, then I'm going to give that a 30-second cure. I wanted to do more than a flash cure, but I didn't need to waste my time doing a full cure, so I just did the 30 seconds. And now I'm using this tiny little detail brush, but it's more of like a fluffy brush. I kind of use it more for stippling, less for detail work. And I mixed some of the pink and the tan together so that I got a nice wash of pink on his cheeks and nose to make him look flushed. Then I painted that onto his bottom lip as well. And I did end up following this up with just the straight pink, just a tiny little bit in the center of his cheeks and the center of his nose. This, I think, is what made him look even more boob-like, which was just ridiculous, but oh well, it was still cute. Okay, so now I am going to add in his eyes. So I'm taking some brown and some black and mixing them together because I want his pupil to be black, but the outside like eye shape I didn't want to be straight black because I didn't want it to be as harsh. So I mix those together. Now I'm using a white potted gel paint and a dotting tool to create his eyeball. And then once I get those the way I want, I will add in the pupil with a tinier dotting tool and a black potted gel paint. I do end up getting the black and the white on the top of his little cheek there, but I just use a very fine file and buff that off later. So that was fine. So here's where you can start to see how his eyes kind of had a really creepy look. That was also because I made his top eyelid kind of straight rather than more rounded. But oh well, like I said, we live and we learn. Next time he'll be even better. So now I'm using that white gel potted paint, and I'm using it because it's thicker, easier to get those detailed lines, and I'm creating his eyebrows. I'm just doing tiny little hair strokes in the kind of eyebrow shape to give him brows. Now I'm going to use a red and add a little bit of black. This is the red I used for the candy cane, but I wanted it deeper because I'm going to create his hat. So I just added that black. And when you're adding the black, add a tiny bit, especially because I was adding that potted gel paint, which is super pigmented. So add a tiny bit. You can always add more, but black really overtakes quickly. So just a tiny bit is enough. And then I'm just painting on the top of his hat. I am leaving a gap where his face ends and the red starts because I'm going to add a trim of his hat. So I did an all over layer and then cured that and then did a second layer just to give it some opacity and make sure it was perfect. And then I am cutting a slice off of the white PolyGel that I'd created before and rolling that into a ball right now. So I just created a little ball and then pressed that onto his hat. And now I'm creating the snake shape because I'm going to create the trim of his hat. So these are just like a flat white, but I wanted them to have some texture, so I will fix that in a moment. So for the trim, I just allowed it to be a little more flat rather than perfectly rounded, but I still wanted it to have that 3D dimension, otherwise I would have just painted it on. So don't press too hard on the top. And with the ball, you want to pat it down a little bit, but not completely. So now I'm going to add in the texture so it looks a little fluffy. So I'm using a silver glitter gel polish and that same fluffy brush that I used for his cheeks. I just wiped it off well, dipping into the glitter gel and then tapping off onto the side of the palette. That way I've just got a little bit of glitter on my brush and it will create some texture rather than being full-on glitter. I didn't want to cover the white with glitter. I just wanted to make it look textured. So that was perfect. Now I'm going to shade the inside of his mouth. Oh, excuse me. Right now I'm going to add some depth to his beard, and I actually wish I would have skipped this part because I don't know. I liked the look of it the way that it was when it was fully white, but I wanted you to really be able to see the detail in the beard, so I used some gray polish with some top coat mixed in so that it would be very sheer, and used the liner brush to just line in between the little hairs. I mean, if you like the look, definitely do it. If not, leave it out and you'll be fine. So now I'm mixing some black in with the gray to kind of shade in his mouth. And first I'm using the liner brush because I'm trying to line around the edges to make sure that it is lined nicely and correctly. And then once I have that the way I want it, I'm mixing some more black and gray together and using a dotting tool just to fill in the mouth. Then I will give everything a final 1-minute cure, and then I'm going to top coat it. So for his mouth, I'm using some matte top coat and then a very, very, very thin amount to cover his beard. I didn't want to use too much because you could risk covering up the texture, and I wanted it to be able to be felt. So when you rub your finger across the beard, you can really feel it. So I just made sure to wipe the brush off almost completely. And then I just wiped that into all the cracks and crevices of his beard. That way it's protected, but still textured. And then I used just a regular glossy top coat on his face and his bottom lip, and also the white parts of his hat. Sometimes no matter how hard you try. So here you can see how I'm really taking my time to wipe out all the excess on his beard. Okay guys, so I've got the winners for my giveaway. I'm going to announce. So I'm just going to copy and paste my video into this comment picker and pick the winner. It is Alexia Brooks. Congratulations, super exciting. She says she'd love to win because she's starting her journey to teach herself to do nails. So I'm happy to help provide some products for you to use. So my second winner for my Yogi product is Jennifer Oliver. Congrats, ladies, to both of you. They've been contacted and they'll get it shortly. That's it, guys. Here's the finished set. Let me know what you think down below. Would you rock it? Do you love it? Do you think it's ridiculous? Let me know. I want to know. And of course, if you have any questions, suggestions, or requests for different sets, let me know down below. I love to hear from you. Make sure to hit subscribe and give it a big thumbs up. And I'll see you guys all next time. Bye.